Hey, welcome to Today Dreamer, a podcast and YouTube channel where we explore the interplay between inner and outer work, and we look at what cultivating the practice of presence within our lives feels and looks like once we clear the mind and open the heart. So, this is just a short clip from a full podcast episode, which I'll leave a link to around here somewhere. If you'd like to check out the whole catalogue of episodes along with guided meditations and what I have on offer, please head over to todaydreamer.com and have a peek.
Well, I'm one person, and the social media world is very noisy and busy, and so I'm not necessarily going to be able to convince anybody that what I'm telling is important. But I think that to the degree that people discover it to be meaningful and worthwhile, they'll come back for more. I mean, that's mostly what I can offer. I can basically say, there are recordings such as the one that we're making right now. There are books that I'm writing. There are occasionally I get the opportunity to teach, and people are really paying attention. um, and I just basically I do what I can.
Mm.
um, there's been some situations where people have learned from what I've said and then re-represented the material. um, at first I felt really good about that approach, but recently I've kind of felt it to be a sort of plagiarism of my person or identity, so I've shied away from that quite a
Mm.
bit now.
Mm.
But in effect, there's a sense here where even if we have really good plans and really good ideas and so on and so forth, that to some extent we're really looking at how do we improve the health of the community. Social media right now is a kind of aberration. It's a disablement of the health of the community. And so, on one hand, I can basically say that, and I can point out exactly what that means, and I can sort of describe why alternatives are needed, or what would be needed. But ultimately, it comes back down to, I can't really use social media to complain about social media and actually have that make sense. I mean, I can to some extent, but
Mm.
it's already a little bit convoluted because of the means ends sort of paradox. So in that sense, it's still an open question as to, can we help people to notice the degree to which they've been, um, that their facilities and their sense making capacities, their place in the world has been uh, largely shifted by the very dynamics of how we interrelate with technology.
Yeah, there's almost like not even come to think of it, like it doesn't need to be approached with force. It's almost like that idea of like, you know, just being present with someone that's going through suffering and, maybe laying some seeds to help them out, but they really need to be the ones that pick them up and come to you rather than kind of like forcing people or judging people or
Well, I
kind of,
can't force anybody to do anything. I mean, I can try, but ultimately that would be a futility.
it's just the wrong way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even like, even to think that, the way we see things or the way I see things is more significant than someone else's perspective. But it's also like it just seems to like everyone needs to step up into their own lives, and no one can do that for them. Um,
There's very much that approach. I mean, as I said, this is still an active inquiry. I'm myself learning better ways to think about this, even still, and I'm sure I will for the rest of my life. But at the moment, all I can really do is to write down what I can and speak where the opportunity seems to be, and hope for the best, I guess. But the notion here is that we can create some clarity about some of these, like the questions that you're asking are actually really good questions, and they're meaningful questions. And so, when we're talking about how to make good choices or how to find the right balance between choosing too quickly out of a sense of reactiveness, right? Um, the way it's been described is choosing on the basis of the immediate situation rather than on the basis of what's important. But of course, there's also the distortion of getting hung up on the stymied by analysis paralysis, as somewhat also referred to. And so, what I'm basically trying to do is to just sort of outline the kinds of concepts that would help us to disentangle that,
mhm.
to sort of know how to distinguish. So this is why I'm using the metaphors about why we have this bias, why it's a natural bias to have an action orientation, but how with technology we need to think about what is the best solution rather than just what's the first satisfying one. And then there's other dynamics that show up. For example, when we think about the kinds of questions that we're asking. So, for example, if I'm asking lots of how-to questions, that's again an action-oriented basis, which is fine. But sometimes I need to go deeper and I need to ask the why question, like why are we doing this? Why do we need to respond at all? And then somewhere along the way, we're going to go to an even deeper level. We're going to ask, what is the essence of what success is?
Yeah, I think that's a question that I've been exploring in my own life lately, and I think
Mhm.
it's a pretty. It seems like a very significant one. What's my ambition and why am I doing that? Why am I even going in that direction? And it's almost seems to be something that needs to be revisited because,
Mhm.
that changes over time. It's not something that seems like it's solid. And every time I revisit it, everything kind of spins out because it's like, what's even going on here? Like, what's happening right now? And
Yeah.
then, like, everything is kind of, when seems to be navigating towards that, that point.
Well,
Um,
this is very much connected to what we were just talking about between thinking and feeling, right? When we're
yeah.
thinking, we're asking why type questions. Why did this happen? Why does that happen? What is the pattern and the shape of things? And it's like a 2-year-old, for example. A 2-year-old says, "Well, why is the sky blue?" And you can invoke responses in terms of photochemistry and quantum physics and things like that. But ultimately, they're going to ask, "Well, why that? Why quantum physics? Why does the Heisenberg uncertainty principle occur?" And somewhere along the way, a person's just going to say, "Well, I have no idea," right? But the notion here is that somewhere along the way, the why question gives way to a what question. I can't say why something's happened in terms of some intellectual pattern. I can only say what I know or what seems to be the case. What is the substrate out of which we even construct a why type question?
Mm.
So, metaphysics in this sense, and when we're talking about, you mentioned earlier that these questions have a kind of moving character. You know, who am I? What is here? What matters? These are all perennial questions. Every time I ask the question, who am I? I'm going to have a different answer. Who am I in this moment is going to be different than who I am tomorrow and who I was yesterday. And what's here? Well, there's an awful lot of change here. And the change is going to make here a different place tomorrow than it was yesterday.
Mm.
And so in effect, when we're getting into the notion of the nuances, when we're looking at what does it mean to be discerning, to really notice these changes in their infinitely varied details, that there's a sense of engagement in the here and now that allows us to actually respond from a centered place. If I if I have a really solid connection to who I am, and I've integrated my whole self. I've done the psychotherapy. I've in a sense integrated all the aspects of my personality into one organic whole. Then, first of all, when I respond, I can respond as a whole being, and I'll be more effective. But it's also the case that in the sense that I know myself fully, I know who I am, and when I respond from the place of who I am as a whole being, that response is going to be naturally integrated with the environment in a more comprehensive way than if I'm in doubt. I basically don't know who I am. So these meditation practices of essentially becoming more aware of oneself, become more and more aware of one's feelings, isn't some sort of narcissist thing. It's actually a sense of creating the capacity to be able to be fully present and to feel the time as to when is the right time to respond, to not react, but to act, right? And the reaction has a causal element, has a kind of unconsciousness, but the discernment creates a deeper consciousness, a deeper awareness of the flow, so that the moment in which you feel moved to act is much, much more likely to be the right moment in which to act. Right. And again, this is a discerning thing. Judgment is going to have a reactiveness to it. It's going to have a kind of unconsciousness built in. But as I become more aware of, moving from the question of how to why to what, when I can live in the space of what is, both for myself and for the world, then I can have the impedance match between what is in myself and what is in the world actually be the best. And from that we can actually answer questions of who and when and where. And that's all there is to it, right? There's really only 6 questions. How, why, what? Those are the abstract questions. And then we have the embodied questions of who, when, and where. And there are only 6 kinds of questions. And so in effect, if we really get to the sense of having mind and body and the sort of heart and the gut integrated with our capacities, then we are able to have the who, the when, and the where be in balance between the what, the why, and the how. And that's the whole package. So in this particular sense, I think that we as a culture have we've become displaced. We've in effect traded a sort of hypernormal stimulus. The feed of news articles that just scrolls past, and the whole psychodynamic of the slot machine mentality of, if I do this, I'm going to get this reward token in the form of likes or followers or something like that. But all of that is pseudo action. It doesn't actually touch the real world. It's not going to make a new kind of energy system or build a house or genuinely help another person move or grow a garden or cook dinner or anything like that. It's going to be essentially the signaling of something rather than the actual being of it. And so in this sense, part of it is literally just getting out of our own way and engaging with the actual universe, the real physicality of being, rather than just the screen mediated versions thereof.
I would like to go a little bit deeper if you're someone that may be going through a bit of a transitionary period in life and you'd like some support through that process. Head over to todaydreamer.com to see what I have on offer. If you're interested in learning to meditate or deepening your practice of meditation, or even just developing a consistent practice and you would like some support in that process, head over to todaydreamer.com and register your interest, because I'll be putting out something very shortly to help you guys out with that. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and click the little notification bell so you don't miss any of the good stuff to come. Thank you again, and I will catch you in the next episode. Be well.